On April Fool's Day, the childhood sweetheart I had fawned over for 8 years was whisked away from our wedding by a younger schoolmate of hers. My critically ill mother collapsed on the spot from the shock, her life hanging in the balance. I begged my fiancée, Victoria Ashworth, to come and explain things to my mother, but instead, she deliberately sent me explicit photos of herself and her lover in bed. He was just playing a prank on Auntie Helen. Don't you play dumb either. Let's postpone the wedding for 3 days. I'll be there. But she didn't know. Some things, like feelings, aren't things you can joke about. 3 days later, Victoria stormed into my new wedding ceremony, sobbing and tearing up my wedding photos. Watching Victoria's retreating figure, so full of nonchalant defiance, I stood frozen. Her arrogant, dismissive words still echoed in my ears, confirming that this wasn't just a bad dream. Sincere Hawthorne, don't you know it's April Fool's Day? Relax, I won't miss the wedding I promised you, but not today. The guests murmured amongst themselves. I felt like I was being roasted alive by their stares. Suddenly, amid screams, I witnessed the scene I dreaded most. Mother had fainted. Mother suffered from acute kidney failure. She'd had surgery just 2 days prior, and the doctors said her recovery was going well, but she still needed a kidney donor match. I had intended to wait until Mother had recovered more before holding the wedding, but Victoria insisted, throwing tantrums, demanding the wedding be held on April Fool's Day. When I refused, she turned her efforts to persuading Mom. Auntie Helen, haven't you wanted me as your daughter-in-law for ages? Now that you're recovering, if we hold the wedding, wouldn't it be a double blessing? Auntie, please say yes. I so desperately want to be a family with you and Sincere. My mother, overjoyed, wept and nodded repeatedly, hugging Victoria. It was such a heartwarming scene that I overlooked the cunning smile Victoria flashed as she turned away. The wedding day arrived as planned. As we were exchanging rings, Victoria's junior schoolmate burst in, grabbed her hand, and started pulling her away. Confused, I reached for Victoria, but she violently wrenched her hand free, smiling brightly at her schoolmate, Mason Mercer. So this is the exciting thing you mentioned? I love it. Is there something even more thrilling waiting for me? Mason nodded. Then, in front of everyone, they began to kiss passionately. For nearly 5 minutes they were locked in an embrace, oblivious. And here I was, the man who had pursued her for 8 years, for whom even holding her hand was often a luxury. Victoria's makeup was smudged, her lips glistening. Your kissing has improved, she murmured. Been practicing lately, huh? Humiliation and resentment formed a suffocating net around me. The ache in my heart spread through my body. Deluding myself, I grabbed Victoria's hand again, swallowing my pride. Victoria, this is our wedding day. Can you please not do this? I loved her deeply. When she couldn't find a job after graduation, I couldn't bear to see her struggle. I worked multiple part-time jobs to give her $1,500 a month for living expenses. Only now did I realize that the person I cherished could also fawn over someone else. Victoria scoffed at my plea, contemptuously shaking off my hand. Do what? You think everyone is an old-fashioned stick in the mud like you? With that, Mason led her away. Outside the operating room, I was on pins and needles. I prayed desperately for Mom not to be in danger, but fate seemed unkind. Mother didn't have much time left. Even in her final moments, she was asking for Victoria. Mom, wait for me. I'll call her right now. She'll definitely come. My hands trembled so badly I could barely hold the phone. Tears blurred my vision. The call wouldn't go through. A minute later, a message arrived from Victoria. Hold your phone screen up to Auntie Helen. I want to see her. Relieved, I quickly held the phone towards Mom, but that very action caused Mom to leave me forever. Because on the screen were explicit photos of Victoria and Mason Mercer in bed. Rage surged through me. My chest heaved violently, my pale face flushed with fury. The next second, another message arrived from Victoria, utterly unapologetic. He was just playing a prank on Auntie Helen. Don't you play dumb either. Let's postpone the wedding for 3 days. I'll be there. I stared dumbfounded at the words. my emotional defenses suddenly crumbling. Victoria had always liked to joke, but they were usually harmless things and I always went along with it. But she knew how much Mom cared for her, doted on her. After years of serious illness, Mom's only wish was to see us married. Yet Victoria always put it off, saying she was too young, didn't want to settle down so early. I'd understood, always defending her. When she finally suggested holding the wedding, I thought she'd had a change of heart. I never imagined it was all just a complete and utter sham. Watching the white sheet being pulled over Mom, the years of suppressed resentment and hurt finally erupted. I grasped Mom's hand and wailed uncontrollably. Only when my eyes could produce no more tears did I collapse onto the floor. My phone pinged, a message from Victoria. On the screen she asked timidly, "Sincere, are you mad at me?" Sigh, my bad. I shouldn't have listened to them and gone to that bachelorette party. But don't worry, those bed photos were fake, AI generated. Seeing her explanation devoid of any real apology, I felt nothing. Previously, no matter what joke she pulled, I would indulge her. But this time, I offered no response. After a moment of silence, my phone vibrated violently again. It was Victoria calling. I sat numbly for a while before finally answering, determined to set things straight. "Sincere Hawthorne, can you stop being so unreasonable all the time? You've been pressuring me to marry you for years. Can't I have a little fun before the wedding? Yes, your mother supported me financially for 10 years. But does that mean I have to be your family's servant?" Her stream of complaints poured into my ear. I didn't argue, just thought about how pathetic my devotion had been and laughed bitterly. Hearing my laughter, Victoria stopped, demanding, "What are you laughing at? Am I wrong?" "Don't worry," she added quickly. "Once my party's over, I'll go explain to Auntie Helen. I definitely won't make things difficult for you." Through the phone, I could clearly hear the heavy breathing of a man, as if he were right there with her, on her. I didn't call her out. From now on, she had nothing to do with me. Why bother with a thankless task? I simply said, "Mom's dead," right after she saw those photos. Victoria choked on her words. But quickly her dismissive, mocking tone returned. "Oh, Sincere, you're 28 now. Can you stop acting like a little boy? Auntie Helen knew it was April Fool's Day. How could she possibly believe those photos?" I heard her scoff. "If you keep talking like this, I won't bother explaining for you." Let's see who you'll marry then." She was always like this, recklessly joking, poking at my vulnerabilities. But this time I wouldn't tolerate it like before. "I'll marry anyone, just not you." My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. The coldness in my words made Victoria pause, speechless. In the 10 years I'd known her, I had always been gentle and warm towards her, never cold and distant like this. My statement silenced her. She started backpedaling. "Sincere, what are you talking about? Who else would you marry if not me? We're childhood sweethearts. Isn't that supposed to count for more than some newcomer? I thought you were someone dependable, but I didn't expect you to be so shallow." Victoria never apologized. She would just throw a bigger tantrum until I apologized. But this time, I wasn't giving in. Why should my sincere efforts go unreciprocated? Why could she hurt me with impunity? "Yes," I agreed flatly. "Have fun at your party. I'm blocking you." Without waiting for her reply, I decisively ended the call and blocked all her contact methods. After doing all this, my phone rang again. It was Summer Summers, the daughter of my mother's best friend. Her voice sounded tired, as if she had just been crying. "Sincere, my condolences. I'm on my way over now. I'll help you with Auntie Helen's arrangements." I hesitated for a moment, then agreed. But the bitterness in my heart hadn't faded. The $150,000 I had promised Victoria as a wedding gift. Before this, I always gave her the best of everything. But what I received in return was not genuine affection. Looking at the $150,000 balance in my account, I didn't relax. I continued working my part-time jobs. My supervisor asked me to deliver drinks to a private room. Before opening the door, I heard Victoria's voice. "Him? Oh, he's just my simp. Marrying him is just pity, really. After all, he spent millions on me over the years. Pity? Before I could process it, the conversation inside continued. Victoria, you've spent quite a bit on Mason too, right? Didn't you buy him that Cayenne? Gotta say, your simp is really good to you. He squeezes onto the subway every day while you just have to play the victim and act cute, and he bends over backwards for you. Victoria giggled softly. Well, marrying him is like casting pearls before swine anyway. It's only normal for him to treat me well, just a basic investment. Besides, I agreed to marry him. What more could he possibly want? I lowered my gaze, thought for a moment, then let out a self-mocking laugh. All these years it seemed I had never truly seen her for who she was. I poured my heart out for her, afraid she'd suffer the slightest grievance. I never expected her to do the same for me, but I didn't expect my devotion to be met not with appreciation but with entitlement and escalation. Mason suddenly sighed, sounding dejected. It's still unfair to Victoria. It's all my fault I got kidney failure. Victoria had to deal with sincere Hawthorne for my sake, fighting tooth and nail to secure that kidney. Otherwise, how could I have found a match so quickly? He even feigned a sob. Kidney donor match. Those words echoed in my mind. So, her recent kindness towards me. Was it all for Mason? So that kidney donor match that mysteriously disappeared. It wasn't an accident, but a premeditated plot? Disbelieving, I tightened my grip on the drinks. Just then the door swung open, and Victoria and I locked eyes. She glanced around in panic, realizing she was cornered. Victoria scrambled to her feet, grabbing my hand, her voice trembling. Sincere, when did you get here? Could she actually feel fear? I sneered inwardly. Ignoring her touch, I subtly distanced myself. Just arrived, I said softly. I've delivered the drinks. Enjoy your evening. Curious eyes turned towards me, waiting for my reaction. They knew I could be possessive about Victoria, but who knew her circle of friends wasn't exactly wholesome? Victoria often mocked me, saying I got jealous over nothing. Seeing my calm reaction, the room fell dead silent. Victoria grew even more anxious. In front of everyone, she clung to my arm, forcing a smile. What do you mean, enjoy the evening, Sincere? Since you're here, I'll just go back with you. I'm a little worried leaving Auntie Helen alone at the hospital. I clenched my fist imperceptibly, turning to look at her. My sharp gaze startled her, but she held onto my hand tightly, softening her tone. Sincere, why are you looking at me like that? You're scaring me. I didn't bother exposing her charade. I just shook my head gently. The next moment, my phone rang. It was Summer. Sincere, when are you coming back? I made your favorite tomato and shrimp ball soup. Summer's gentle voice on the other end startled me for a moment, making me feel a flicker of warmth, like home. I'll be back soon. You don't have to wait up. As soon as I finished speaking, I caught sight of Victoria's dark expression. She clutched my hand, stubbornly refusing to let me go. Sincere, who was that? Is someone waiting for you at home? Victoria never cared about my affairs, simply because she assumed I would drop everything for her. But that was predicated on my love for her. Now, that love was long gone. I shook my head, averted my gaze, and fobbed her off. You know me. She nodded, seemingly reassured, finding a narrative that comforted her. So Auntie Helen is back home? Then I'll go back with you. I was about to make an excuse when Mason behind me spoke up again. Victoria, this is your bachelorette party. It'll be boring if you leave. Besides, I have a surprise for you. Aren't you curious? I watched her quietly, seeing the excitement flare in her eyes. Her grip on my arm loosened. She pouted, complaining to me, Sincere, I can't really leave here. Can you go back first, please? The thought of being your bride tomorrow excites me so much I won't be able to sleep. I nodded, saying nothing more. After I got home, I received a message from Mason. It was a photo. Victoria's smooth back was covered in red marks. Moreover, the usually traditional Victoria was wearing outrageously revealing lingerie, kneeling before him. Mason added gloatingly, Sincere Hawthorne, your fiancée is quite wild. I'm just helping you train her. You don't mind, right? Without a doubt, the person on the other end expected an enraged response from me, but I felt nothing. Without hesitation, I deleted the message and blocked him. From now on, whatever Victoria did had nothing to do with me. When I returned home, Summer looked at me strangely. After some thought, I couldn't help asking, "Summer, is there something you want to say?" Faced with my directness, Summer was straightforward. "Sincere, you can have me be your bride tomorrow. I don't want to see them looking down on you." I refused without hesitation. To me, Summer was more like a sister. Her family was grateful and determined to repay kindness. Years ago, when Mrs. Summers had complications during childbirth, it was my mother who unhesitatingly provided 40,000 for emergency treatment, saving them. They remembered that kindness for 20 years, but I couldn't force them into this. Summer's eyes reddened with anxiety, her voice pleading, "Sincere, please. Consider it helping me too. My mom is pushing me so hard to get married, and she's always liked you. Can you?" Ultimately, I couldn't refuse. I sat on the sofa until 3 in the morning, unable to sleep. Just as drowsiness finally began to claim me, I found a letter. It was in Victoria's handwriting. After reading it, my hatred for Victoria reached its peak. My hands trembled with rage, barely able to hold anything. So the kidney donor. Victoria had forced Mom to give it up for Mason Mercer. The fire in my heart blazed uncontrollably. Just then, a text message arrived from Victoria. "Sincere, tomorrow I'll dress beautifully to marry you. From now on, I'll honor Auntie Helen with you. I believe someone as good as Auntie will definitely find a suitable kidney donor." I didn't reply. I really didn't want any further entanglement with someone so morally bankrupt. At 9 in the morning, I was already at Summer's house. Seeing her, looking strikingly beautiful in a different way, touched my heart unexpectedly. But I knew better than anyone. Today wasn't a wedding, but the moment to ruin those two despicable people. Mrs. Summers grasped my hand emotionally, her eyes filled with pity and regret. "Sincere, it's such a shame your mother couldn't see you get married. Today, just do what you need to do. Let Summer be there for you, okay?" I was grateful that someone understood. I nodded firmly. Just then, my phone rang. It was Victoria. "Sincere, why haven't you come to pick me up yet? I order you to be here in 10 minutes, otherwise I won't marry you, and let's see what you do then." Listening to her mix of petulance and affected coyness, I felt no joy. Only irritation. "Okay," I mumbled perfunctorily. "Wait for me." Victoria's wedding venue was supposed to be in one part of the city, while the one with Summer was in another. Half an hour later, Summer and I arrived at the venue. Victoria called again, her voice tinged with anxiety and fear. "Sincere, they're saying you're marrying someone else." I didn't believe them. "You wouldn't marry someone else, right?" I remained silent. My silence amplified her fear to its peak. I could hear the wind whistling on her end. Clearly, she was already rushing over here. I hung up. It was time to exchange rings. Summer, blushing shyly, placed the ring on my finger. Urged on by the crowd, Summer stood on tiptoe to kiss me. At that exact moment, Victoria burst in, gaping at me. "Sincere, Hawthorne, you're actually marrying someone else?" The wedding photo displayed nearby seemed to sear her eyes. She violently ripped it apart. The crowd was still buzzing. Victoria saw me avoiding her gaze and suddenly burst out laughing. "You do still love me, you're just putting on a show to make me jealous. But you're sensible enough, knowing I have mysophobia." She glared at me imperiously, triumphant. "Today, if you dare kiss her." Before she could finish, I kissed Summer. It was just a brief, light touch, yet it silenced the entire venue. After the kiss, I peeled off the piece of plastic wrap I'd placed on my lips and quietly apologized to Summer. "Are you satisfied now?" Victoria shook her head frantically, desperately clinging to denial. "Are you still angry about April Fool's Day? Angry that Mason Mercer crashed the wedding? Fine, I'll give you what you want. I'll crash this wedding too, come with me, okay?" I shook my head decisively, looking at her calmly. If it had just been a petty tantrum, I could have forgiven her. But she forgot I have mysophobia too, and I hate betrayal. And her biggest mistake was targeting my mother. Seeing Mason Mercer lurking behind her, ready to intervene, I gave a slight smile. Do you still think I'm just angry? Victoria nodded eagerly without a second thought, even trying to make small talk. Sincere, I know you get jealous easily, but today is our wedding day. Please don't be unreasonable, okay? I already apologized. I shook my head wearily, staring at her. Just because she apologized, did that mean I had to forgive? Seeing my indifference, the last shred of patience Victoria had wore thin. Her eyes darted quickly across the guests, only to be met with disappointment. I glanced at her coolly, then turned to Summer. You and Auntie Eleanor should head back first. I can handle things here. Once everything is over, I'll come find you. Summer shook her head without hesitation, her eyes resolute. Sincere, I'll just say it. I like you. From now on, I won't leave you. I looked at her numbly, but still said nothing. Seeing our closeness, Victoria charged forward like a madwoman, lashing out wildly at me. Sincere Hawthorne, why are you so close to this woman? Don't you know I have mysophobia? If you don't let go, I really won't marry you. As you wish, I said lightly, as if devoid of warmth. My grip loosened slightly. All I could hear was Victoria's low sobbing. The sound that once elicited my sympathy and pity now left me unmoved. The usually composed and proud Victoria finally lost control when faced with my coldness. The venue buzzed with gossip, cameras flashing incessantly, but she paid no heed, pleading pitifully, "If you don't marry me, how will you explain it to Auntie Helen? She told me she only recognizes me as her daughter-in-law." Towards the end, only her muffled crying could be heard. Where did Auntie Helen go? Why won't you let me see her? I rubbed my temples, my eyes quietly turning red. In today's society with its rule of law, I couldn't exact physical revenge. But what they had done was enough to ruin their reputations. Towards Victoria, I really couldn't afford to be lenient. Her hand shot up, aiming for Summer. Just as it was about to strike, I intercepted it. Seeing me protect Summer, Victoria cried out aggrievedly, "You'd bully me for her? Sincere Hawthorne, are you even human? I wasted my youth for you, helped you take care of Auntie Helen, and what do? Turn around and find someone else." Her anguished cries fell on the guests' ears, instantly becoming damning evidence against me. But I gave her no face, exposing her without hesitation. "You took care of my mother? Go on, tell everyone how you took care of her. Was it by snatching the kidney donor match my mother waited 3 years for and giving it to your pretty boy? Was it by sending explicit photos of you and that pretty boy when she was critically ill? Or was it by deliberately provoking my mother?" Every word was sharp, ringing through the hall. Victoria stared daggers at me, her eyes wide with disbelief and fury. But even now she tried to argue. Victoria gripped my hand tightly. "No, it wasn't like that. I don't know how the kidney match disappeared either, and those bed photos were AI generated, please believe me, okay?" She still thought I would believe her, even at this stage. The Victoria I once knew cherished our relationship, but after Mason Mercer appeared, she squandered the bond we had carefully nurtured for 10 years. She had acted so cruelly. So how could she expect me to remain constant? Gasps and murmurs rose from the crowd, people expressing their sympathy for me. Mason Mercer's face turned ashen, because I knew he was applying for a study abroad program in Australia, and his academic advisor was among the guests today. He had a long-standing crush on the advisor's daughter. And the advisor had indicated that if Mason secured the spot in Australia, he would consent to his daughter dating Mason. The advisor represented connections, resources, and money. Mason desperately wanted this, but today it seemed everything had turned to dust. He gritted his teeth, stepped forward, grabbed Victoria, and hissed, "Do you think he'll still believe you? Let's go home now. Stop embarrassing yourself here. Don't you know my advisor is here? Are you trying to ruin me?" I watched calmly as they turned on each other. I thought Victoria might regain some composure, perhaps consider her lover's situation. But instead of calming down, she unleashed everything Mason had done recently. You think you're any better? Leading on your advisor's daughter while sleeping with me, tricking me into buying you a house and a car, tricking me into forcing Auntie Helen to give you the kidney donor you ruined yourself. Her words hit like a bombshell in the large hall. The advisor shot up from his seat, pointing furiously at Mason. You just wait. Mason chased after the advisor as he stormed out. Once most of the other guests had dispersed, I helped Summer prepare to leave. But Victoria blocked our path. Her makeup was ruined, but on her ring finger she wore the simple silver ring I had given her in college. Sincere, I know I was wrong now. Can you forgive me? I know you were jealous, angry that I was so good to him. I've cut ties with him now. Can we start over? I shook my head firmly, stating calmly, Victoria, some things can't just be started over. As you can see, I'm married. Do you think I can start over? Victoria stared blankly at my hand intertwined with Summer's, shaking her head in disbelief, tears welling up. Trembling, she demanded, Then take me to see Auntie Helen. I need to hear her say herself that she doesn't want me as her daughter-in-law. Seeing her utter lack of comprehension, a wave of bitterness washed over me. I stared at her coldly, articulating each word slowly. You will never see my mother again in this lifetime. Go home. She clenched her jaw, her hair flying as she spoke fiercely. Why? Are you afraid Auntie Helen won't approve of you leaving me? Sincere Hawthorne, how can you be so selfish? She lunged forward to grab my hand, her eyes bloodshot like a crazed animal. I simply watched her and stated nonchalantly, because she's already dead. That sentence acted like a sedative. Victoria, who had been screaming hysterically moments before, abruptly calmed down. Her sharp, frenzied eyes studied me quietly, her lips moved but no sound came out. After a long moment, tears streamed down her face. She mechanically repeated my words. Do you know what you're saying? How could Auntie Helen be dead? Are you lying to me? Seeing her persistent delusion, Summer, standing beside me, finally couldn't take it anymore. Her slender frame blocked my view of Victoria, providing an unexpected sense of security. You knew Auntie Helen was unwell and couldn't handle stress, yet you deliberately provoked her with that. You used April Fool's Day as an excuse for your unreasonable behavior. Is this what you call honoring her? Finally, she pushed past Victoria, took my hand, and led me towards the hall entrance. As she passed Victoria, she said coolly, Miss Ashworth, the one who needs to stop being unreasonable is you. Leaving the hall, I still hadn't fully calmed down. The warmth of Summer's hand in mine felt surreal. Fortunately, the cool breeze outside quickly brought me back to my senses. I took off my jacket and draped it over Summer's shoulders. Summer, thank you so much for today. It must have been hard on you. Let me take you home. Summer looked up at me, her emotionally charged gaze making me freeze again. But ultimately, she seemed hesitant to speak, just lowering her head and murmuring, Okay. After dropping her off, I returned to my apartment, surprised to find Victoria there. Hearing the door open, she immediately stood up. I ignored her presence, heading straight for the bedroom. Seeing my indifference, she chased after me and grabbed my arm. Her tone was uncharacteristically vulnerable and lost. Sincere, are you really going to marry that woman? Tell me the truth. We're childhood sweethearts. Everyone in our circle talked about us. A perfect match, they all told me. I found the right person. Told me to build a good life with you, but you? I played one joke on you, and you immediately marry someone else? Are you even human? Anger gradually filled my heart. Looking into her eyes, I found the situation utterly absurd and unreasonable. Yes, this was Victoria Ashworth, always having her own twisted logic, always able to justify her actions. I strode to the coffee table, pulled Mom's death certificate from the drawer, and thrust it into her hands. Do you think I, Sincere Hawthorne, am pathetic enough to marry my mother's killer? The rage boiling in my chest threatened to erupt. I took a deep, controlled breath, calming myself. Yes, we were childhood sweethearts, but what did you treat me as? An ATM? A backup plan? Let me tell you, I don't care about you anymore. Do whatever you want from now on. With that, I stormed into the bedroom and locked the door. Outside the door, Victoria was silent. After a long pause, the sound of intermittent crying began, lasting through the night. The next day, Summer and I planned to take Mom's ashes back to our hometown. When I went to collect them, I found Victoria still in the apartment. The dining table was even laden with breakfast. Seeing me dressed and ready to leave, she smiled awkwardly, speaking softly. "Didn't you always want to eat breakfast I made? Remember the first time I cooked for you? You and Auntie Helen fought over it." Hearing her reminisce, my expression remained unchanged. Victoria's face grew increasingly awkward, but she forced another smile. "It's okay. From now on, if you want it, I'll make it for you every day." I had fantasized about such moments countless times, but now, faced with her overture, I just shook my head coldly, stating concisely, "This apartment was left to you by Mom. Come by later to handle the transfer paperwork. I'll be moving out in the next couple of days." Victoria's face instantly turned deathly pale, her hands trembling uncontrollably. She stared at me blankly, making a last stand. "Sincere, did you forget? Auntie Helen prepared this apartment as our marital home. What do you mean you're moving out?" "Yes, this was the marital home Mom prepared for us. After the initial transfer, everything inside was furnished by me. Victoria had never asked about it. When I tried to consult her, she brushed me off impatiently. It's just an apartment, you decide." But I had seen the apartment she had meticulously decorated for herself elsewhere. It radiated warmth. Transferring this apartment to her wasn't out of lingering affection, but because I wanted to cut ties with the past. I mumbled a non-committal twice, ignoring the voice behind me, and walked straight out the door. Summer was already waiting downstairs. Seeing my mood, she quickly asked what was wrong. I gave a vague answer, not elaborating. Back in our hometown, looking at the familiar surroundings and the faded group photo on the wall, I unhesitatingly took the photo down, went outside, and threw it into the trash bin. Throughout this time, Victoria called incessantly, probably more times than she had called me in the entire past year. When she called for the 99th time, I decisively added her to my block list. Belated concern? I didn't need it anymore. On the third day, when I went to finalize the property transfer, Victoria arrived late. Seeing her, I got straight to the point. "Once the paperwork is done, let's part ways amicably. I definitely won't let your little schoolmate off easily. As for you, I promised Mom I wouldn't do anything to you." Hearing this, she burst into tears, her eyes instantly red. But I just mechanically proceeded with the transfer procedures, not paying her any mind. Just then, Victoria's phone rang. She glanced at me first, then answered. "Isn't this what you brought upon yourself? What's the use of begging me now? Considering ending things? Go ahead and make that choice then. I feel intense displeasure just looking at someone like you." Victoria's tone was icy, devoid of any warmth. But hadn't she been scheming and plotting for Mason Mercer just recently? After hanging up, she gave a bitter smile and muttered, "Sincere, is it only if I am no longer here that you won't feel so negatively towards me?" She suddenly looked up, her eyes filled with determination. I thought for a moment, then shook my head decisively. "Holding on to such strong feelings requires remembering you. I want to forget you and live my own life. Tomorrow, I'm leaving the city. From now on, we have no connection." The coffee was still black, no sugar, no milk, but many things had changed irrevocably. After tomorrow, nothing here would have anything to do with me anymore. Regarding Mason Mercer, I chose to expose his unethical actions publicly. His advisor was a friend of mine. As long as I didn't relent, Mason would never graduate. My friend had already assured me he would blacklist Mason within the industry, ensuring he had no future prospects. As for that kidney, I was rational enough but also resourceful enough to deal with it. The biggest fear with transplants is rejection. The first year after surgery is the most critical period for rejection. If he experienced rejection during this year and didn't receive timely treatment, death would be the only outcome. The money Victoria spent on him had already been recovered. For employment, he could only resort to manual labor, earning meager wages entirely insufficient to cover the costs of treating rejection. Furthermore, rejection is more likely to occur under significant emotional distress. I didn't have superpowers, but I firmly believed that bad deeds bring bad consequences. Just before I was about to leave the country, Summer received a call. On the other end, Victoria's voice was frantic, laced with anger and regret. "Sincere, come back quickly," he snatched Auntie Helen's ashes. Arriving at the scene, I saw Mason Mercer perched precariously on the outside of the bridge railing, a look of defiant triumph in his eyes. Thought I was out of options? Let me tell you, if you don't give me $1 million today, your mother's ashes will be dumped into the water in the next second. Suffering in life, and even in death, her ashes scattered because of her son's inaction. How pathetic. His eyes were bloodshot, his grin savage, like a crazed beast. Victoria pleaded desperately, nearly kneeling on the street. "Please, you can do anything to me. Just give me Auntie Helen's ashes, please, I beg you, for the sake of me helping you find the kidney donor." Mentioning that only fueled Mason's frenzy. He whipped his head around, glaring viciously at Victoria. "You want me to thank you? If you hadn't repeatedly assured me the kidney was fine, would I be tormented by rejection symptoms now? You bitch, it's all your fault. You ruined my life. If I don't get the money, you won't get off easy either. I have countless compromising photos of you. Let's see how you'll survive in this city then." The rejection symptoms had appeared so quickly. I lowered my eyes, saying nothing, but fear gripped me. After all, Mom's ashes were truly in his hands. Helpless, I had to placate him first. "Okay, you get the money, but you have to guarantee my mother's ashes remain unharmed." He looked at me, seemingly doubting my words. I added quickly, "You must know I have a card with the $1 million I prepared for Victoria, right? I'll give you this card now. We trade simultaneously money for the ashes." Greed flared in his eyes. He nodded repeatedly. But just then, Victoria stopped me. "Sincere, I caused this mess. How can I let you pay?" With that, she pulled out a bank card, ready to hand it to Mason. At the same time, sirens wailed someone had called the police. Mason panicked, but the road was already blocked solid. There was no escape. Mason looked down despairingly, then abruptly pulled the urn back, grinning savagely. "Looks like I'm not getting out of here today. Rather than die tormented by rejection, I might as well end it all now. Annoying you people before I die is worth it." Saying this, he raised the urn high. Lightning fast, before anyone could react, Victoria snatched the urn back. However, the momentum carried her forward, crashing into Mason. Almost instantly, both figures tumbled towards the water below. I stared blankly at the scene, momentarily stunned. A day later, the incident made the news. Mason Mercer was dead. Victoria Ashworth was in a deep coma, still in the ICU. The doctor informed me that she would likely remain in a vegetative state. I simply nodded, placed Victoria's bank card in the nurse's hand, and instructed, "If she remains in a vegetative state, use the money in here for her medical expenses. If she wakes up, please give this card to her." The nurse looked at me and nodded gravely. Back home, Summer rushed forward and hugged me tightly. I thought you were going to leave me here alone." My hands hovered awkwardly in the air. After a moment's thought, I stiffly placed them on her shoulders, patting her gently, tentatively. People who have been abandoned often seek comfort in each other, and Summer for me seemed like someone I could potentially find that comfort with. But in the long road ahead, much remained to be seen.